Man, it's rough when you're interested in something, but at the same time you want to get past it because we've been on the pathway to Leonis forever. Like it's kind of funny. It legitimately feels like if you were watching the anime, it would be like it would feel like it's almost filler. Not in the negative way that it'd be filler, like it doesn't make like it's pointless, it's just there to fill up space. But it's like, when you watch a series and it's like, hey, we're pretty much just traveling somewhere, and because of the general pathway of traveling, they get sidetracked by a million different small things. It feels like that. Like if this was the anime, they'd be like, hey, we need to extend their travel to Leonis by 10 episodes. It's like, okay, we're gonna just do a bunch of small little adventures along the way. And it's like, I want to get there, but at the same time, like, I like seeing stuff like this because it's interesting of what's going on in the general setup of Britannia, and what's going on with the characters in the last like 16 years, and how exactly their general kind of just their situations are, because everything has gotten a little bit stranger. Like the Demon Clan obviously was defeated. Arthur and Camelot and all them have taken a whole new position. You have apparently some form of beef between Leonis and Camelot as well. I really want to get to Meliodas though, because I require seeing his side of things and his take, because Arthur is clearly not stable, and I think Meliodas could be like a really good information character for like how things are going, because he's definitely somebody that would have the full insight as to the large scope of things. It'd be like if we got to someone like King or maybe Gauther, somebody that can actually really kind of give us a rundown over like, okay, this is pretty much what's been happening over the last 16 years. This is kind of like what's happening right now, and just give us a good strong take on pretty much everything that has transpired and is currently active, because we mostly only get stuff as it shows up, and the main cast, other than Sin, is fresh to a lot of this stuff, and Sin isn't telling us a lot of information anyway. Like, Natsians was stuck in Echo Gorge. Annie was pretty much just in a town, like small town, nothing crazy. Donnie was, at the most part, until we running into Percival, a like entertainer, roadside little kind of like petty thief. There wasn't anything that like extravagant of any of their group before they ended up kind of like joining up. Like, there's nobody that's like, oh well, because X reasons, I have all this information on the setup and the settings and everything. So once we get to like a bigger character that obviously has been fully active in the last 16 years, that they can say like they know pretty much what's going on, because Meliodas, he was already 3,000+ years old, and he's not gonna be like these guys where they like when post Holy War, like these guys were all either infants or not even born. Whereas, like, Meliodas has been a full adult since, obviously, like, 3,000 years ago. He's going to have as much awareness as probably anybody that's going on in their regular society. But, like, the difference between them and just some, like, random villager is, one, Meliodas is a king of Leonis. So he's going to have more general information at his disposal. And plus, he's really powerful, so he's going to be told and given a lot of position to find out this information. It just would make sense what you have not only your king, but like the most powerful guy in your kingdom be stocked up on the situation and what's going on. So the chapter itself was good. I really liked the scenery, the whole layout of seeing like the mountain ranges and the terrain was really cool. My only question was, while they're like getting ready to cross these mountains, and Sin's like telling them to get ready to climb and whatnot, and even like Nonsense is just like, yeah, 4 days is probably gonna need to get doubled for me. Like, clearly they're not as like physically trained as Percival, so trying to go on this like 4-day mountain climb is gonna be rough. But I'm wondering why Percival just doesn't fly him over. Like, he can fly, he can just do that. Like, it'd be so much easier if they just flew over like a lot of areas. Like, when Percival runs out of magic, just rest, have that be your rest. And I wouldn't imagine it'd be that difficult, because it's like, what, like he flies, you get over to a spot, go to sleep, he can go to sleep, wake up, do it again, and it would probably save him a lot of time. Like, I would assume it would only take him like a day or two if they ended up doing it that way. And it's not like it's It's not like it's like, oh, well, fly over, like, the entire map. It's like, no, you just fly over, like, a small area that you can kind of just not have to trek through mountains. Because I know that, like, they're traveling across the country, but, man, they should be able to get, like, small bounds like this pretty easily with flight. The whole stuff with the bride at night that Sin experienced, clearly being the, well, I guess not clearly, but I feel like it's clearly, but it's not obviously, like, straight out stated. But we obviously know that Arthur is looking for his bride, and I feel like this is the clear, most likely solution to that, is this woman in a wedding dress, or even mentions by Sin as, like, a bride, is just, like, appearing in dreams. Probably Guinevere, considering, you know, King Arthur and stuff, and how her whole part in the story is gonna pretty much pop in, is gonna be really, really interesting, considering she didn't actually show up. It was, like, a dream, because, like, Sin walked out, and then by the time that he woke up, it was just like, oh, well, he's in the exact same spot. I guess he never went anywhere, but he saw her, and I doubt it was just, oh, yeah, it's just something. It's clear, I feel, that she's visiting him in his dreams and whatnot, and she knows his name, so it's like, it would be even weirder if that wasn't, like, a character, and that was just a dream he's having. But once they end up getting to, like, this general area where they find, like, a town, there's a guy that comes up and pretty much tells them, you know, don't go in there. And we're like, well, Sin and Donnie are going there because, you know, they're excited just to get somewhere. Also, just as a side note, I like that the part where Percival mentioned naming his sword and some attacks. I'm like, yes, that I do want. I very much enjoy it when characters end up naming their weapons. When you have, like, a unique weapon, it just gives it that extra level of importance, an extra level little flair to it. But when they go in, there's, like, that little ripple, so clearly they went inside some form of barrier, and the guy was pretty much saying, like, once they go in there, they're gonna get stuck, and that, like, this isn't a village of people, this is a village of monsters. And I decided to go with this panel, instead of, like, any of the really cool, nice scenery ones, because that guy in the back, that big dude, he looks really cool with his staff and stuff, but everybody else looks like a generic random side character, like somebody in the background, except that guy. That guy looks like a boss character. He's like this 10-foot tall, jacked old man, big ass beard. He's got a staff and a, like, big popped collar with, like, a black stitched robe. Like, that dude looks a little bit, like, intense for, like, a random village character. I'm guessing he's gonna be the one that's gonna be the big boss of this area. I just would assume, considering the extra level of uniqueness to his design compared to these other characters. There was a part where Sin noticed that bird that was flying around, and maybe that's, like, his familiar. Like, I feel like that's got to be a familiar of somebody. There'd be no point of, like, just this bird if it wasn't relevant to some character later on in the story. So, I don't know. That's just something to know. I didn't have a lot to say about this chapter, because mostly it was, like, them kind of just talking, you know, all this stuff about traveling and this whole big den of monsters. There wasn't anything really, like, any other kind of jumps, like seeing it from Arthur or Ironside side of things. We didn't get that this chapter. It was pretty much entirely set on the main cast and what they were doing right now towards, you know, going to Lioness. I would, like, please, Nakaba, like, after this, let's get to Lioness. Like, I want to see that whole set. This, I would assume, would be the last thing, but I thought the last adventure was also going to be the last time before we end up getting to Lioness. So, I don't know. It's just going to be one of those things where we got to wait a little bit before we actually get to there. Because, like, when we get there, we should at least run into Tristan and, you know, one of the other 4 knights, and then see Meliodas. Because Meliodas, I require for a big kind of just information dump. I want him to say, like, okay, yeah, this is pretty much what's been happening these last couple years, and the status between Lioness, Camelot, and, like, what's going on with Arthur. Because that's like the big question right now, is like what happened to Arthur entirely. I think it has to do with the chaos. I personally don't think that he could be good or evil just by the nature of chaos. He has to be in between, or just popping around at all sides, kind of like what we saw when he was talking to Ironsides, and at one point was torturing him, and then it was like, okay, no, that was just to help you, and, like, you know, see you later. Like, that portion is, like, what I'm hoping is pretty much the cause of the chaos stuff. Like, he has to be in between. He has to be this unorder, like, disorder of a character. He cannot have one side or the other, because I think that'll make him more interesting in general as well. But anyway, other than that, though, comment below, tell me your thoughts about this chapter. Percival, please, at least before we get to Lioness, name that sword and give it at least a cool name. It doesn't have to be amazing. You can just give it a sick name. Well, you can call it, like, the Dragon Saber or something, and I'd be pretty happy. But anyway, other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video, put the like button, subscribe button, check out my other videos. But other than that, appreciate it if you already subscribed. Thank you all for listening. Bye.